Hi, my name is Brian Gren, and I am a solution architect at Oracle. I'm here today to talk about two new features of the ZFSSA that came out this year. As of now, it is September 2022. Snapshot retention lock is the first feature that was introduced in release 8.8.39. I believe it was over the summer in 2022. And file retention was released, I believe, at the end of the summer in release 8.8.45. At the bottom of the slide here, you can see there's two links. I will include the slide in the comments so that you can click on it and get more information about these two features. For the video, I'm going to demo these two features, and my use case is going to be the Oracle incremental merge capability. The ZFSSA is often used for RMAN, so that is a great place to demo what you can do with both of those features together. So first, what is the incremental merge? There's a great blog here that I'm referring to by Chris Kraft. The idea of the incremental merge is you create a full image copy of your database files. You create a incremental backup copy that's a differential. It contains the blocks that have changed since that full was taken. And then you take the incremental backup, create a new one, and take the previous one that you took and merge it into that full copy and bring it forward using that incremental merge. So it does a recovery of the database file image copies using the incremental backup from the previous day, and there is a new incremental merge backup. That's the basic idea. And to take that one step further, you can add snapshots to it. So the idea is every day you do that merge process, you have a new copy of the data files that are brought forward one day, and then you create a snapshot of the copy of the data files as of that point in time, and you do that every day. And by doing that, you will have a daily copy of the data files that you can use for restore and recovery. And at some point, those older copies of the snapshots will age off. The next item I'm going to demonstrate is the users and the roles. With the introduction of file retention, snapshot retention, and object store retention, there were additional roles that were created that are not granted by default to an admin user. So I'm going to take a look here in the configuration users and roles section of the ZFSSA, and you can see that there are new permissions associated with this. As far as scheduling snap, retention mandatory, retention periods, retention auto, those are used to grant that user access to manage retention, both file retention and snapshot retention. The first thing I did was I went and I created a project. And the project that I created was DB Backups. So within this project, I'm going to create two shares. One share is going to be used for file retention, and one share is going to be used for snapshot retention. My full backups are going to go to my full backup share because those are image copies of the data files that get changed on a daily basis as I do that incremental merge of the backup into that full backup. And because those files get updated, I cannot set file retention. File retention assumes that once the file is done being written to, it is locked. It cannot be updated. It cannot be deleted. It cannot be renamed. That is not the case for these image copies associated with the full backup. They are updated on a daily basis. That's why I'm using the snapshot. So when I look at the full backup share, which is going to contain those image copies, and I look at snapshots, you could see that there is a new section here on enable retention policy for scheduled snapshots. So I click that, and that will allow me to create locked snapshots. And under schedule, I created a snapshot schedule that runs every day at 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. I am creating 5 snapshots, and I am retaining 3 snapshots as locked. I've run this for a day now, and what you see out here is that there is a snapshot out here that was automatically created. When I go to delete that snapshot, I can't delete it because it is locked. When I click on the property is locked, and I cannot change that. So you can see that daily snapshots are created. I am keeping 3 snapshots that are locked, 5 altogether, and then they rotate off and they're automatically deleted. But those 3 snapshots that are locked cannot be removed. So to go back to my project, I'm going to look at daily backups. This is where I'm keeping the files that are the incremental backups and my archive logs. So those will be locked because they will not change once they are created. So when I look here under access, you can see that I set these file retention policy settings. The file retention policy for the share itself is privileged override. So that gives me some control as root to destroy those files if I get into a bind. There's also mandatory, which will not give you any override ability at all. I can see the expiry, which tells me that there are files on this share that expire on 10/4. So that share cannot be removed till that point in time when it's empty. And there are 30 files that are locked that are currently retained. The settings that I have here are I am keeping files locked for a default of 6 days. So any new files created on this share, so those backup files that get created as far as my RMAN backup, will be locked for 6 days. There's a grace period because RMAN does periodically stop while writing. There are points where the file isn't continuously written to. What the grace period does is it checks to see if the file has been idle for this period of time, and if it has, that's when it locks it. So because I know RMAN could be periodically idle, I set a wait of 20 minutes. It's not a huge database, that should be more than enough time. So once the files that are part of the backup are idle for 20 minutes, they will be locked for 6 days. So that's my settings here on the share. Here you should see the script that I'm using for my backups of both the data files with the incremental merge and the archive logs. So the script that backs up the data files are creating channels to full backup, which is the share that does the snapshots. The incremental level 1, which is the changes that's going to be used to merge into my data file copies, my image copies, that is going to daily backups. As I showed you a minute ago, the files that go to daily backups are locked for 6 days after 20 minutes. Then the recover copy of database with tag is going to take that incremental backup and it's going to merge it into the data file backups, which sit on full backup. So that's the script that I use for the incremental merge. The script that I use for the archive log sweeps is below here. I am creating channels to daily backups. That is the share that does the file retention that will lock those files for 6 days. And I'm doing that on a regular basis. So the idea is I will run the incremental merge backup once a day, and the archive log backup I can run multiple times a day, and those backup pieces will be locked after 20 minutes for 6 days. Now let's go back to the first share that I have for my backups here. I'm going to look at the full backup share where I am creating the snapshots, the daily snapshots. And you can see I have a snapshot out here that was created at 14:30. That's the only snapshot that I have. And when I go and I look at the system itself, this is where my backups are going, those image copies, full backup, RADB. It was 14:30. The one thing to notice is that these say 1845 and the system date is set at GMT. So the current time that I'm recording this is 16:35, but the time is actually 12:35. So there is a 4-hour difference between GMT and the timestamp where the ZFS is doing the snap. So this point in time is actually after it had taken the snap. Then if I go look, let me show you where I am here. I am looking at the snapshot itself. I did make these snapshots visible. And let me go show this. So I set the visibility on here so that you can see it. And you could see that this is the daily snap with the name. And when I go there, this is the actual snap that I'm looking at in RADB. And then when I list out the data files, they are as of before that snap occurred. So these are the pre-snap copies. These are the post-snap copies. So by looking at the snapshot directory, I can actually look at a copy of the file and I can copy it back if I really needed to. So both copies are available, the snapshots are locked, and that is protecting the backups of those snapshots. Now I'm going to take a look at the other backup pieces here. I'm going to daily backups, RADB. These are all the backup pieces. And these files are locked and they will remain locked for 6 days. One of the things that I changed on the share is, let me go to my project, DB backups. So this is the daily backups. Under general is I set the update access time on read to off on the share. And what that allows me to do is do an ls-lu, and I can see the date timestamp that these files are locked into. So I'm running this on September 29th, 2022, and you can see that these files are locked for another 5 days. So if I take any one of these files, let me just take this one, RM, you see I cannot remove that file, that the operation is not permitted. So by combining both the snapshot locking and the file retention on my backup pieces. So I'm like, to review in the daily backups where I am sending the incremental backup pieces and the archive logs, those pieces are locked for 6 days. And when I look at the share where I am sending those full backup image copies that are being updated on a daily basis, I am doing daily snapshots, and those snapshots are locked for 3 days, 5 days at the most. If I try to delete this schedule, it cannot be deleted. I tried to delete one of the snapshots earlier. Let's revert this, and that also cannot be deleted. So that is protected from removal. So my backup pieces, both those image copies that are the full-size copies that get updated daily, and the incremental backup pieces and archive logs are protected from removal, and a combination of both file retention and snapshot retention gives me the ability to lock both of those. I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about how to take advantage of file retention and snapshot retention to lock down your backup pieces for RMAN. You can choose either one. The snapshot retention will use more storage if you are creating new copies. That's where that piece may make more sense to do file retention if you're doing a weekly, full, daily incremental. But if you're doing an incremental merge, then the strategy that I demonstrated here makes more sense. And you could see that the snapshot that I took, the unique amount of space is really 18 meg. The backup of those data files themselves are taking 8 gig. So those are very efficient snapshots because very little changed. So as I said, thank you for watching, and I hope that was a good explanation to give you an idea how file retention and snapshot retention can be utilized for your RMAN backups.